The other side.
Martin drops Ortiz again.
Yep, you know what time it is, man. This is, of course, your favorite channel, man, CTB. It's a Chin Tuck Boxing. I'm your boy, Jay Slay. So what up to him, man?
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in.
Most definitely. You know what you're tuning into, man. This is a show we call here Chin Check. So we rock you guys the channel about some news, about some information, about some rumors. And sometimes we give you some money in your pocket by giving you the odds of the fight. But today we want to talk about the fight that's coming up this Sunday. This Sunday, y'all. People getting confused about the date for some reason. I don't know why. We're going to talk about it at the end of the show. But this Sunday, we have a great heavyweight championship contender matchup with Andy Ruiz versus Luis Ortiz. I'm looking forward to that fight, man. You looking forward to that fight, yeah?
Yeah, it's an intriguing fight. I done played it out a couple times in my head, and I favor one fighter, but I still can see it going either way. So when you get two heavyweights and then kind of a toss-up type of fight, it always comes out to be a really good fight to me.
Yeah, not to mention the age of one, the possible age of one, and the two last opponents and the two last performances against those opponents, which both of them had some scary moments in the last fight. So we want to talk about that. Both of these guys, on their last performances, got dropped, man. Both of these guys to touch the canvas against their last opponent. I will say one maybe more scary than the other. Maybe because a lot of people are saying that Ortiz is older than he say he is, by him being Cuban, you know, coming over here, his birth certificate could be a little far, like his birthday could be farther out than normal than he needs to be. But level of competition was about the same to me when it comes to who they fought and who they got dropped by, in my honest opinion. Ortiz, his last fight was against Charles Martin. A lot of people in America don't know Charles Martin. He was the guy who got knocked out. They got knocked down like 4 times against Joshua, I think, in the first round. Was it 3 times in the first round or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Something crazy. He pretty much won a vacant title, and then lost it his very next fight against Anthony Joshua. And then you got Ortiz, you got Andy Ruiz, whose last opponent was Chris Arreola. He wound up getting caught by a right hand over the top and wound up taking a knee and kind of doing a split in the ring a little bit from that shot. So going off those two performances, man, these guys, man, this is a make or break fight for both of these guys if they want to be in the top contention for a heavyweight title. Who do you think had the most improved coming off being dropped in that last fight against a C-level opponent?
Before I make that point, I do want to say, going back to the last point, also another thing that we might have left out is Labor Day weekend. So a lot of people are off Monday. So they had a fight on Sunday, which was actually a good idea because most people will be off on that Monday. So they'll stay up and watch the fight on Sunday. Won't be a bad idea. Now, getting to the point you just asked me about, I think more pressure is on Andy. And I think it's Andy because at this stage of their career, we expect more out of Andy. Ortiz has been in the game a lot longer. He pretty much, we've seen his peak and his prime. I think his high moment was against Deontay Wilder. So I think he's had his big fight, and I think that, you know, that was the peak for him. I think at this stage, if you really watch that last fight, his reaction was really bad. You could tell that he's starting to age and get older. That timing and that power is still there, but his reaction is very bad at this stage. But Andy, I think he's still fairly young. He took a loss against Joshua, but other than that, he still got a lot of big fights that's out there, man. He can get a fight with Wilder. You know what I'm saying? If he can beat Wilder, I think the sky's the limit for him. I think PBC is going to pretty much push either Wilder or Andy as far as making a big fight, maybe with a Joshua or a Usyk or Fury if he sticks around, you know, long enough, which I don't know about that. But I think it's more pressure on Andy because he got more on the line.
I think the opposite end of the spectrum. I think Ortiz got more on the line because of his age, because it's probably his last shot. Like you said, Andy will have other opportunities because he's younger. So if he loses to Ortiz, he can have 2 more C-level fights to get his name right back in that mix again, in my opinion. You know, PBC going to feed him somebody to get him back up in the contention. But if you're Ortiz, you know what I'm saying, like you said, your prime is over. You went through your prime. You had your 2 opportunities against Wilder. You got knocked out by both. You was competitive in both, but you got knocked out in both. So, and on top of that, I don't know if there a real market to watch in OTs, which is Wilder 3. You know what I'm saying? So if you fighting for that type of fight, for another Wilder fight, I don't know how the market is for that fight, in my opinion. So you are pretty much fighting for the winner of, Fury versus Usyk. You want one of those titles, in my opinion. If you have, like you said, you have other, man, the sky's the limit. You can fight for any sanctioning body pretty much. As long as you don't lose in a devastating fashion, you don't get knocked out by Ortiz. I think you can still, like I said, you can still fight 2 C-level opponents, maybe an up-and-comer, somebody like Big Baby Anderson or somebody like that. Trying to upset his train a little bit, and that put you right back. I remember you fight like a Frank Sanchez, put you in there with Frank Sanchez. You could be like a Frank Sanchez, they get you right back in the mix with the champions, in my opinion. But if you Ortiz, man, this is probably your last hurrah. I'm being honest, especially if you lose devastatingly against Andy Ruiz after coming off of being dropped by Charles Martin. I think you will be a gatekeeper at that point. You gonna wind up fighting somebody, and you might be. If you fight Frank Sanchez or somebody, you might wind up being the underdog in that fight just because of your last 2 performances.
I was about to say that people better keep their eyes on Frank Sanchez. He's very underrated because he's more of a boxer than a puncher for a heavyweight, which is not popular. So a lot of people sleep on him, but he got a lot of skills, man. Watch out for Frank Sanchez.
Right. I think he's even on the radar of Wilder's trainer, Malik Scott. Malik Scott had a press conference. Wilder had a press conference yesterday, and Malik Scott got questioned by a couple of reporters. I want to say it was by it might have been on Fight Hype. They asked him about Frank Sanchez. He was like, he don't want that fight for Wilder, which is a good reason because, like you said, Frank Sanchez, he's an outboxer, so he's not going to win any type of fans, but he can win some judges by outboxing you. And it's like a high risk, low reward fight for Wilder. Even though people will favor Wilder to win, do you want to risk that when you have other big money fights for Wilder? So if you Ortiz, like I'm saying, that'll be your only way to get back in contention. I'm not Ortiz, you Andy Ruiz. That'd be your only way to get back in contention if you lose to Ortiz. But if you Ortiz, man, I don't see how you gonna make it back, especially if you're older. I think if you lose to Andy, he might consider retirement at his age. What do you think? What do you think? What happened if Ruiz win? Do you think he'll go for a Wilder fight? You think he'll hold out for a Wilder fight, or do you think he'd be trying to chase the winner of Fury versus Usyk?
I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's PBC playing. That's why I think they fighting so close together. They're only fighting a month apart. So I think that I think Usyk and Fury is kind of like in their own little world, with Eddie Hearn. But I think that PBC plan is, like I said, like most of the companies, they want to get all the big fights they can get in house. So I think that if Wilder looks good in his fight coming up on October the 15th, and if Andy can take care of Ortiz, who is a common opponent, and he can beat him, I think sometime the spring of next year you'll have a pay-per-view fight with Andy and Wilder, which should do pretty good, man. Being that Andy has a Mexican fan base, being that Wilder to me is the most popular heavyweight in the game still, I think you make for a great pay-per-view event.
Yeah, I also look for PBC to actually put the loser of this fight against each other. I would see if Robert Helenius loses to Wilder, I would definitely see him in the ring with the Ortiz if Ortiz loses, or Andy Ruiz if Andy Ruiz loses. How PBC, they recycle it, spin cycle it, and then have the loser fight, and then they make whoever win the WBC title after that. WBC seems to favor those PBC fighters or whatever. So look forward to that fight probably the next year or two. Now, you got anything else you want to add to this topic, man? This fight coming up Sunday?
I think we covered it all.